The John Wick spin-off has a director. The international Oscar films have been finalized, and Martin Scorsese said what about superhero films? All that and more on the Cinemateq News Wrap-Up. Please remember to subscribe to this channel so you can always stay up to date on all of the film news. And with that said, let's start things off with Ballerina, the John Wick spin-off. It has a director, and that director is Len Wiseman. Not familiar with Len Wiseman? Well, that may not be surprising, as he hasn't directed a feature film since 2012's Total Recall. He is best known for his work directing the Underworld franchise. He definitely did the first one, and I think he also did a couple of the sequels, as well as producing credits here and there. Overall, this is a great get for Wiseman, and it actually makes sense when you consider his broader scope of work. He has a lot of experience working with female leads in action films, and that's exactly what the John Wick spin-off, Ballerina, is going to be. The film is going to follow a ballerina character who was seen in John Wick 3, although for the life of me I can't remember exactly who that was, and I'm sure it will feature a lot of the same John Wick type action that everyone knows and loves oh so dearly. Since this news is hot off the press, it would be disingenuous of me to suggest that we would be seeing this film anytime soon. Best bet, Ballerina would be hitting theaters sometime in late 2020, although it doesn't strike me as being a prestige film that would be up for Oscars, so I think spring of 2021 is more realistic. But then how will that affect John Wick 4, which might also be coming out in 2021? Who's to say? Actually, you could. Let us know what you think about all of this in the comments below, and do you think Len Wiseman was the right choice for this film? Moving on, all of the films that will be competing for the newly renamed Best International Film Oscar, previously known as the Best Foreign Language Film Oscar, have been finalized. And this year, there is a record number of films, 93 to be exact. That is a ton of movies to watch. But if you've been following along with this channel and you've gone to some of the films that we've recommended at certain film festivals, you've already seen a couple. It should be no surprise that South Korea selected Parasite as its representative, as it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, and it has just been doing really well at every film festival it's screened at. Other notables include Pain and Glory, which will be representing Spain, and Atlantics, which will be representing Senegal. Now this list is 93 films long, as I mentioned, and there are several that I don't know anything about, so it's really hard to judge what is must-see and what is not, but I think this list as a whole would be a really good way to get a look at some of the different films that have come out all across the world. There were some oddities though that I thought were worth mentioning. Specifically the fact that France put Les Miserables through instead of Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I thought that Portrait of a Lady on Fire would definitely get it considering all the buzz that it got out of Cannes and out of TIFF. It was very well reviewed, and while Les Mis is also very well reviewed, it didn't have quite the amount of buzz about it coming out of TIFF, so I'm surprised that France would pick it over Portrait of a Lady on Fire. But having not seen either film, I really can't form an opinion on it. I'm just going off of what I've heard about the film. Please let us know what you think in the comments below. Have you seen any of these films, and which ones do you think should make it to the shortlist? Moving on, you're gonna be able to see Gemini Man in theaters this weekend, but just not the way that Ang Lee wants you to see it. It's been revealed that Ang Lee intended for Gemini Man to be screened in 4K, 3D, at 120 frames per second, which, according to science,
yes, science,
is more than the 24 frames per second that films are typically screened at. Now, as it turns out, literally no theater, no projector in all of the United States is capable of showing the film at all three of those specs. And so compromises must be made. If you're going to see Gemini Man this weekend, you are likely going to be seeing it in either 4K at 60 frames a second, or maybe 2K at 120 frames per second, or maybe 3D 2K at 120 frames per second, or maybe 3D 2K at 60 frames per second. There's a lot of variation going on. And if you want to see Gemini Man in a particular way, you should really check with the theater that you're going to make sure you're getting the experience that you want. But please let us know down in the comments whether or not you're even going to see Gemini Man, and if you are, what format do you want to see it in? If I were to go see it, probably not 3D at 60 frames or 120 frames if possible, because I'm just curious about what it looks like. But in the end, whether or not that's possible is really going to dictate it. and whether or not it's reviewed well, because that's a film I could easily miss if it's terrible. Moving on, Geena Davis and her team at the Geena Davis Institute for Gender in Media have developed an AI tool that can read a script and then determine whether or not there is gender bias in it. And Disney has announced that they are going to be using it on all future film projects. The Hollywood Reporter explained that the tool leverages patented machine learning technology developed at the University of Southern California Viterbi School of Engineering to rapidly analyze the text of a script to determine its number of male and female characters and whether they are representative of the real population at large. Gina Davis noted that this technology was not meant to shame filmmakers and screenwriters, but just to shine a light on the unconscious bias that influences everything that we do in our lives. Ben Pearson at /Film noted in his article on the subject that such a technology should really just be used as a tool as opposed to a vetting device. Films like The Shawshank Redemption, an example that he gave, would be flagged by this tool as having just a ton of dudes in it. But it's a prison movie, and there's only supposed to be guys in this one particular prison, so that would actually make a lot of sense in the context of the film. So while I think this is a good idea for Disney, and I think it's a good idea for other studios to institute this as well, there are going to be instances where such a tool shouldn't be used, or at least its results put in a certain context. But please let us know what you think about the existence of this AI tool and what it could mean for filmmaking in the future. You can let us know in the comments below. They're right down there. You know where they are. You're smart. Moving on, Martin Scorsese has had some choice words for superhero films, and people are none too happy about them. In an interview with Empire magazine, Scorsese was quoted as saying that superhero movies were basically just theme parks and that they are not cinema to him. This, of course, was met with mild applause and people nodding their heads in appreciation of Martin Scorsese's long filmography and experience with the genre and understanding exactly where he was coming from. Just kidding, everyone on the internet was super mad. Now, I tend to agree with Martin Scorsese on this point. I don't know if I would go so far as to say that superhero films are not cinema, but since he said they're not cinema to him, I'll give it a pass on it because it's the guy's opinion. Plus, he does great work in film preservation, which is a personal passion of mine. You leave Martin Scorsese alone, internet. But what do you think about Martin Scorsese's comments? Please let us know in the comments below. And with that, cinephiles, we are done with this weekly news wrap-up. Please give this video a like if you enjoyed all of the news stories we talked about. And if there was something that we didn't cover that you thought we should have, well, let us know in the comments below. We would love to know what you would like to see more of on this channel. Speaking of which, please subscribe so you get to see every video that we put out. And with that said, I now have to go decide whether or not I'm going to see Gemini Man. Maybe. I don't often look at Rotten Tomatoes scores, but I think for this one, I might rely on that.